Hi class, these are my parting thoughts for the end of the semester. Some advice and ideas about writing. First off, there's some funny stereotypes about being a writer. Um, Self-hating alcoholic writers is kind of a stereotype. And I want to emphasize that it is untrue and unhealthy to think that way about writing. So I have some tips to make it a little easier. First off, even though writing isn't easy, and it's not, it sometimes hurts, but it doesn't really have to be painful. There are ways to help it be more accessible and joyful. One way to do that is to think of it as something that you practice. And it's kind of like in yoga, they call it a yoga practice. It's not something where you are ever perfect at it. And that same thing applies to writing. You have to keep practicing, and you never get there. You never reach the end of goodness. It's also a muscle. This is the introductory concept that I talk about early in the semester. Writing is something that you have to exercise frequently to get the most out of it. When you are lifting weights, you don't immediately jump into the heaviest set of barbells. You start small. And that's sort of what we want to do with writing. And you want to do a little at a time. Another piece of this is that a lot of times students come into my class and say, I'm not a writer. Well, your writing will improve a lot if you say, I am a writer. In this context, I'm writing, so I am a writer. See if that helps you if you try that. Another piece of advice is that good writers usually pay attention to the writers they love and, try to figure out how they can use their ideas. We've been talking this semester about stealing like an artist. Well, that purpose behind that is that I want you to look at texts that you think are really, really good and see what you can do to be as good as them. This is a hard one for students to hear, but the best way to get better at punctuation and grammar isn't to memorize parts of speech and do sentence diagramming. It's actually just to read a lot. And even Stephen King says so. So there you go. Read more. So a lot of times people sit down, write a paper, done, think that they're done. Usually the process is a lot more messy than that. We write, then revise, then edit, and then honestly, we may start, revise, edit, write, revise, edit. And actually, the idea that there's an actual order to the writing process is not really accurate. We may have an idea and we jump back and forth between each of those different categories: brainstorming, drafting, researching, revising, editing. It's not linear. It doesn't go straight through. We go back and we do this and we do that. It doesn't end. With that, you may think of it as a non-linear process. It's not something where if I do the things in this order, something good will happen. A lot of times we have to turn around and start over. And with that, your writing will never be perfect. At some point, you're going to have to say, okay, good enough, and move on with your life. And that is perfectly normal and okay. They say that perfection is the enemy of the good. And sometimes you just have to produce something. And then you can work on cleaning it up. The next thing is, if you want to create content, the way that you do it is through ignoring the two questions. Betray those pimps that are, being critical of your writing. You can always go back and revise after you get some content to work with. Again, it's about starting somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And once you have something to work with, that's when you go in and start polishing things up and making them shine and sparkle. One way to do that is to have a kind, critical, helpful reader. Peer review, or, my husband's my main editor, so find someone who will read your writing and give you honest critiques. And that's where we're going to start getting into the next piece. So up until now, I talked about how to get going. What we're shifting gears, and I want to talk a little bit about what to do once you have the things on the page and you want to start polishing them up and looking beautiful, which is why I'm changing the background to be diamonds. And we're going to talk about the 4, that's in quotations for a reason, C's of writing. Sometimes when people talk about the 4 C's, they're talking about diamonds, the cut, clarity, carat, and color of the diamond. But here we're talking about writing C's. It's the 4 is in quotation marks because there's a lot more than 4 when we're talking about writing. I'm going to start with clarity, or clear writing. Essays with clarity make it easy for readers to understand. The writer provides all the necessary information, and the text is written in such a way that the reader doesn't have to struggle for understanding. There are lots of ways to be clear. Use simple words, define complicated words and jargon, shorten complicated sentences, use paragraph breaks and white space to your advantage, use forecasting statements where you're saying, this is what I'm about to tell you. Things like titles, thesis statements, and topic sentences. And use headers in longer pieces to help make your papers more clear. The next C is coherence. And so with coherency, all elements in the essay point to a singular focus and purpose. The reader should be able to sum up the point of the writing in a few words, a sentence at the most. Things to do to be coherent in your writing. If you're writing in a narrative form, choose thematically related anecdotes to focus on. You may also want to limit your scope. I like to say you can write about anything, but you can't write about everything. So pick your topic and stick to it. An argument, using those forecasting statements like titles, thesis statements, and topic sentences, that helps with your coherence. The next C is consistency. This is when you use a uniform style in spelling, grammar, punctuation, and formatting. So check your tenses. You want to be, if you're past tense, present tense, or future tense, maintain it. Check your voice, first, second, or third person. Check your subject and verb agreement. If it's a plural noun, it needs to be a plural verb. Check your font size. Keep all your fonts the same. Check your format. Use the same sorts of bullets, numbers, headings, all that stuff. Keep it consistent. And finally, check your style. If you're using MLA, stick with MLA. Don't jump around in your styles. Closely related to this is correctness. Correctness means that the writer uses the correct punctuation, spelling, and grammar according to their selected style guide. So some ways to improve your correctness is to first read your paper out loud to catch proofreading errors. I'm always surprised by how well that works. Have a partner read your paper. Use the Writing Center for free tutoring. And use grammar, punctuation, and spelling software. Concise. This is my favorite. Concise writing honor the reader's short attention span by shortening paragraphs and sentences, simplifying language, and removing clutter. The main thing I want you to take out of this is that really good speeches, they minimize the amount of working memory or buffer required to understand them. You want to make things easier to understand. Focus on order. See if you can group together the elements that go together so as to reduce the demand on your reader's concentration. So you want to make sure that they have energy to think by the time you get to the end. How to be concise. Remove your adverbs, basically anything starting with ending with ly, words like very, really. It's unnecessary. Revise your passive voice. Always have a subject that you can identify. Limit your use of words like this, that, and these. Those can be just filler. Use short, simple words and sentences. Hey, that's come up before already. Remove repetition and remove anything not doing useful work. A lot of this is coming from our Clutter and Simplicity week. Credible is the next C. An essay with credibility shows the reader why to trust the writer. A writer with credibility will demonstrate their knowledge about the topic. How to be credible? Write about what you know. Show that you've done your homework by citing sources to corroborate your statements. Address alternative points of view. That's very good for credibility. Write with authority. In other words, cut out your I believes and I think and just say it straight out. Be honest. Indicate your stake in the topic by telling us your personal stake in the topic. You may want to also even refer to your credentials. Say, I have a 5-year degree or 5 years of experience in the topic that we're talking about. That doesn't always work with all audiences, so that's why there's a perhaps. Comprehensive. A comprehensive essay provides all essential information. How to be comprehensive? Most or all questions are answered. The writer provides enough information for the reader to fully understand the point. The reader feels satisfaction upon completing the reading. And the writer has cut the clutter to make room for essential information. Concrete. What is this? The essay communicates ideas by using specific examples. These examples are based on tangible objects, people, and places in the real world. So how to be concrete? Limit your abstract language, values, beliefs, emotions, and generalizations to just a couple key concepts for focus. The next piece is to use precise examples. Instead of saying we ate food together, you can say we ate homemade tamales and menudo together. Real things in the world. Compelling. A compelling essay will bring the reader in with a hook and keep them reading because they see the relevance and value of the content. How to do that? Give your readers a purpose for reading. Entertain, inform, persuade, or instruct. You can also help the readers see why what you've written matters to them. You can also write about topics that are valuable to both you and your readers. And then finally, just write with the passion, care, and enthusiasm that can be contagious to your readers. In the end, what matters is communication. If one of those strategies doesn't work with a particular audience that you're working with, forget about it. Do something else. Those are just some guidelines. It's all about getting your ideas across to people. And that's what good writing is. If you have any questions, always email me. And those are my parting thoughts. So this will be the end. I will hopefully see you on email at some point. So bye-bye.